I was taught to be a machine, brother. My dad would tell me since I was a child, your number one job and your only job in this world is to make money. My dad would tell me, I came to this country so you guys can have a great life. This is your country. Never disrespect America. Never disrespect the flag. You're not always going to like the way you're treated, but that's irrelevant. And what I've learned is that nobody hates America more than Americans. And nobody loves America more than immigrants. Matter of fact, when you look up at the IRS stats, 83% of millionaires in America are immigrants. And there's a reason for that. There's two reasons businesses go out of business. Either they grow too fast or they grow too slow. If they grow too slow, there's not enough revenue. If they grow too fast and you don't have the infrastructure, you're fucked.
What does real freedom mean to you now?
I don't have to follow the footsteps of what I saw growing up. I'm free of that. I broke those chains and so can you.
So what's the one piece of advice that you would give to a couple trying to build wealth together? Welcome to Built to Scale, the podcast where vision meets action. I'm your host, Quinn Schilz, founder of Master Roofing, and I'm here to pull back the curtain on building the world-class teams, scaling companies, and turning bold ideas into unstoppable momentum. Let's get to work. From the streets of East Bakersfield to the boardrooms of multi-million-dollar insurance empire, today's guest is living proof that rock bottom isn't the end, it's a launch pad. Ricardo Aguilar Fuentes Chavez is first-generation Mexican-American who grew up watching his mother hustle as a single mom, dropped out of high school, ran the streets, and did time behind bars. But this wasn't his final chapter. It was just the prologue. At 24, he was making nearly $500,000. By 26, the judge told him, "If I see you again, you're done." So he flipped the script. Today, Ricardo is chairman's council leader at PHP, a company founded by Patrick Bet-David, where he leads 2,200 agents alongside his wife and has spent the last 9 years building the Chosen Ones, one of the most driven teams in the financial game. He is a husband, a believer, a bold leader, a proud Republican, and a man who went from felon to a father figure for an army of entrepreneurs. You've seen him on stages, in boardrooms, and behind closed doors, building legacies, but today you're going to hear the real story. This is not just an episode about business, it's a resurrection story. It's from culture, faith, leadership, love, controversy, and climbing out of the pit to build a mountain. Welcome to the show, Ricardo.
Very happy to be here with you guys. Thank you for the introduction. Man.
Absolutely. So, what's your earliest memory, of survival growing up in East Bakersfield?
Oh, man. My parents got divorced when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
And my dad's always been in my life. He's not a deadbeat or anything. He's an entrepreneur. He always did very well. But my earliest memory was when we moved there when I was 12. So I actually lived in a town called Lamont, California. Okay. Till I was 12 years old. And the funny story behind that is that when my mom remarried, so my stepfather's from East Bakersfield.
Okay.
We lived in a town called Lamont, which is only about 15 minutes away.
Okay.
And my stepfather tells my mom, "Hey, I got the properties in East Bakersfield. Let's move over there." And we didn't live in Bakersfield, but we knew Bakersfield. And I remember telling my mom, from what I know, East Bakersfield is a bad part of town, right? And she said, "Oh, no, Steve grew up there. Everything's going to be fine, But, I mean, he grew up there 30 years prior to that. You're not talking about it's the same dynamic, right?
Totally.
And so they said I was supposed to go to a high school called Arvin High School.
Yeah. In
Arvin, California. And that high school is shared between two towns, Arvin and Lamont. Mm-hmm. And those two towns have really bad gang wars to this day. So their ideology was, let's get him out of Lamont before he has to go to Arvin High School. And ironically, I ended up in one of the worst high schools in California, in East Bakersfield, called Foothill High School. So they took me, like we say in Spanish, from Guatemala to Guatepeor, right, to worse. But their concept was, let's get him out of Lamont before he ends up in Arvin High School, gets a lot of trouble. I ended up getting a hell of a lot more trouble in East Bakersfield. The day that we move in, literally the day we move in to my stepdad's property there at that time, a guy gets shot on Oswald, Virginia, right on the corner, and that same night a guy overdoses in the crack house right across the street from us.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, and by the way, mind you, when we lived in Lamont, we lived in the nice side of Lamont.
Okay.
So we went from a nice, big, beautiful house because that's what my dad had provided for us. And obviously, naturally, my stepdad did not want to live in my mom's ex-husband's house, right?
Yeah, I get that.
And so we ended up in a 3-bedroom apartment in the hood. So but my earliest memory in East Bakersfield was somebody getting killed. I lived
That's
two
crazy.
houses down from the corner street, getting killed, and then overdosing a couple hours later. The ambulance showed up and body bag.
So what was the first time you realized your family was different from others?
As far as what? What do you mean?
Well, you mentioned to me like before the podcast, like your family in Mexico was doing different things, right? So
Yeah. I think
when did you first realize all that?
I don't think I realized that until I was a little bit older. When I was raised in, both sides of my family are entrepreneurs, or go-getters, or hustlers. That's all I've ever known since I was a child. But I think when you grow up, that's normal to you. And as you start getting little friends, and you start, knowing how to socialize, and you see their parents are like, oh, they're not dressed like my parents or my uncles are. They're not driving what my parents and my uncles are. They don't live in the same houses. They don't,
Yeah.
And I think right around 11, 12, 13 years old is when I started to realize that we were a little bit. The family as a whole was different. They don't. A lot of my little friends' parents had jobs, and our uncles and whatnot don't have jobs. They're doing other stuff, and they live a lavish lifestyle. So then you realize, okay, something's different about the family that I grew up in. So that's when I realized it. Right, probably early teenage years when I realized something was off.
That's interesting. What was the hardest part of your childhood that maybe still affects you or how you lead today?
Oh man. So to get real super personal, not something I talk about often, is my mother has suffered from depression my entire life, and from things that happened in her childhood. And when I was 9 years old, she tried taking her own life, and not like she's like thinking about it, like she went through. And luckily, my dad showed up in time, and she had swallowed a bunch of pills, and my dad showed up in time and took her to the clinic, and they pumped the pills out of her. He was no longer living there. He went to pick us up, and we were playing outside, and my dad says, hey, where's your mom? My mom at the time was 23 years old. My mom had me when she was 17. So I'm lying. I was 9 years old. So I was probably my mom was probably about 25 years old, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
My mom didn't nap during the day. On top of she's 25 years old and healthy, she didn't nap. And we're like, oh, you should take a nap. My dad's like, that's odd. So he goes in the house and realizes something's wrong. And I remember him running out of the house. And
How old were you?
9. I was 9 years old.
You still remember it?
Oh yeah, like if it was yesterday. And he then drives her to the clinic. They pumped the pills out, and she was able to survive. And I think that to this day, whenever you get the first when you get your heart broken as a child, there's a part of your soul that dies that never comes back. Because of that, it's one thing that, oh, my dad hit me or my mom hit me, but when you are 9 years old and you're asking yourself, why was I that bad, or did my mom not love me that much that she wants to take her own life? It does something to you that's irreversible, and both to me and my younger brother. And it at that point, I think that it helped me become successful too, because I don't care what people think. If you want to talk to me today and not talk to me tomorrow, I promise you I don't give two lefts of a shit. I do not care. I really don't.
That's the right mentality.
Excuse my language, but I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? I really don't. If you reject me, I don't care. If you tell me no, I don't care. It doesn't. So that part of it, I didn't know how to channel those emotions. I'm going to be 40 years old now, but I didn't know how to channel those emotions when I was younger. I channeled it into violence, and that's why I got in trouble around the streets. Ended up going to jail, but that part is probably the most impactful. But a lot of things happened when I was a kid. There was always chaos. There was a lot. My dad was 28 years old when when my dad married my mom. She was 17. My mom was young, beautiful. To this day, she's a beautiful woman. People think she's my sister. And my dad, my dad's a 5'4", 5'5" little Mexican guy,
No way.
And the complete opposites,
Yeah.
And they said, oh, your mom married your dad for money. And so my dad's side of the family would throw that on us, treat me and my brother like shit because of it. My grandmother treated us like shit. She would make, she'd give us cereal, give us raw milk. I mean, it was just a lot of shit. And
She gave you raw milk?
Yeah, raw milk. Yeah, she didn't. She couldn't stand my mom, so they took it.
What's
out
raw
of us.
milk? Like rotten milk?
Rotten milk.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
rotten milk. And so that's what I meant to say. I didn't mean to say raw. I meant to make.
That's what I thought you meant,
rotten milk. But that's just the surface of a lot of things. There was a lot of chaos, on my mom's side. There's always been chaos. Always. People going to prison, 10, 15 years federal time, people getting killed. It was a lot of chaos growing up, and it's a lot to get into. But to me, on a personal level, my mom attempting to take her life was probably the most impactful thing that ever happened to me. Yeah. You grew up with a lot of insecurities, and wanting to show dominance, because of that.
Right.
And you let your ego get the best of you many times. And, luckily with having the right mentors around me, which we'll touch here in a little bit, it helped me reshape my mindset. But, yeah, it was a roller coaster growing up, for sure.
I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's important to say that because probably somebody out there needs to hear that, right? And it will help somebody who's had to go through similar situations and see that, like, when you get to hear your whole story, like, it's inspiring, right?
Yeah. And by the way, just so real quick, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Quinn.
Go ahead.
By no means do I believe also that I've had it the worst. There's people that have had it much worse than me. So I just want everybody, audience to know that. Yeah, and again, I'm only touching the very surface of a lot of things that happened to as a child.
Yeah.
But there's people that have been through a lot worse, and my heart goes out to those people as well. I'm sure some people are watching and be like, "Bro, that's all you went through." You know what I mean? Like, imagine, in which I'm okay with that because everybody has their own story.
I have a flag out there. I don't know if you saw it. It says "Nobody cares. Work harder."
Work harder. The black and white one.
Yeah. Ismael Valdez. He's one of the guys I
love
saw that.
Valdez.
Yeah. I'm gonna get him on here, and he's the one who had that flag. But it's like, look, everyone has a story, right? And like people use that as their excuse and their reason, and obviously you didn't, right? Yeah. You take a family, right, for example, and you could have 5 brothers and sisters, right? And maybe one person ends up doing something and the other ones are a victim their whole life, right? And so I come from where I see that of like, yeah, everyone has a story, but what did you do with those circumstances? Did you let yourself be a victim, or did you go ahead and did you actually step up and make something happen? So I see, and we'll get to your story, and I'm excited to unpack it with you. So
absolutely.
What did being a first-generation Mexican-American kid teach you that school never could?
So,
still coming up.
I was taught to be a machine, brother. My dad would tell me since I was a child, your number one job and your only job in this world is to make money. My dad would tell me, I came to this country so you guys can have a great life. This is your country. Never disrespect America. Never disrespect the flag. You're not always going to like the way you're treated, but that's irrelevant. And what I've learned is that nobody hates America more than Americans. And nobody loves America more than immigrants. Matter of fact, when you look up at the IRS stats, 83% of millionaires in America are immigrants. And there's a reason for that.
SoCal homeowners, why pay $15,000, $20,000, or even $30,000 for a new roof when instead you can get a new roof for only less than $100 per month? Here at Master Roofing, we serve homeowners with high-quality roofs with no hefty upfront costs. So give your house the roof it deserves with 0 down and low monthly payments. Why wait? Click the link below to get you a roof you deserve for payments you can afford.
With all this going on right now, and it's been going on for a while, my dad is not does not have a victim mindset. So my dad was a real estate investor, and he would buy houses, fix them, and resell them. Mm-hmm. And a portion of his business, like 70% of it was his own capital, but 30% he would get loans from banks. And
usually it's the opposite, right?
Well, yeah, now it's the opposite, but back then it was with him. And my dad came here at 18 years old with no papers. And by the time my dad was 28 years old, by the time he married my mom, my dad owned 3 businesses in America and 2 in Mexico. Wow. With no papers. Matter of fact, my dad owned a restaurant in Lamont, California called it Jacalito that had actually made it on Time Magazine because it was that good. People would wait outside for 3 or 4 hours just to eat at his restaurant.
What kind of food? Mexican food?
Restaurant.
Yeah?
Traditional Mexican restaurant. So a little hole in the wall, by the way, is probably, man, I don't know, maybe, without exaggeration, maybe 1,100 square foot, including the kitchen. It only had about like 15 tables.
That's awesome.
And so to me, that didn't mean nothing. Like first generation Mexican, they didn't mean anything to me. Mm-hmm. I'm just a man that needs to do what he needs to do. My dad would tell me, I came to this country so you guys can have a great life. This is your country. This is America. There's a land of opportunity. That's why we came here. Never disrespect America. Never disrespect the flag. You're not always going to like the way you're treated, but that's irrelevant. I didn't see skin color. I didn't see race. I didn't see religion. And hence why I lean more Republican than I do Democrat. I'm sorry. So I just don't. I'm a conservative. I believe in God. I believe in my country. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
This country is not perfect. Nor are my parents. What am I supposed to do? Stop loving them? Like, I just don't believe in that shit. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't speak about, things that are going on and bring awareness to it. But I'm not going to sit and vilify America for what it's done, for what it has or hasn't done. Because at the end of the day, people are dying to come here. So if any other country in the world was better, they'd be dying to go there, but they're not. They're wanting to come here.
Do you believe there's like an immigrant mentality though? Like if you're not given everything, you have to come here and make it. Like people who live here, don't they just take advantage of it most of the time?
Here's the crazy part, Quinn. So I was born here, but within a month of me being born, we went back to Mexico. I'm an anchor baby. I was.
What does that mean, anchor baby? I never heard it before.
Meaning that, like, for example, it was a funny.
You get your
it was a funny
citizenship.
Trump. Yeah, it's a thing that Trump says. It's an anchor baby.
Okay.
Like, meaning that your parents would have you here to have papers, and then and then just to have that access.
Gotcha.
And so a month after I was born, we went right back to Mexico. So I've lived in Mexico. I went to school in Mexico. Not all the years. I was, kind of back. My parents got divorced. My dad went back to Mexico, built successful businesses back there, and I went to school there for a little bit. And so what I've learned is that even though I was born here, I don't see myself as a first-generation Mexican because I've lived in Mexico and I'm a dual citizen. So I don't identify with that. I don't know if that makes... I know...
I'm going to be a dual citizen too. That's why I'm making that. My wife's from Mexico City.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about that. So technically speaking, I'm a first-generation Mexican, but the most first-generation Mexicans have never been back to Mexico. And I go back frequently. And I've lived there. I have property there. I have employees there. My dad lives there. My brother lives there now with his kids. Like, I don't feel that way like a first generation. And what I've learned is that nobody hates America more than Americans. And nobody loves America more than immigrants. Matter of fact, when you look up at the IRS stats, 83% of millionaires in America are immigrants. And there's a reason for that. It's the self-victimization. We're oppressed. It's all this bullshit. A guy that I was watching, this guy that has successful restaurants here in America. Yeah. He's Mexican, born in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And raised in Mexico. And he has a picture that he posted a couple days ago, him waving the Mexican flag. And I went to the comments, and has a huge following. And you know what they told him? And I found this very interesting. They told him, why don't you go try to open up your franchises in Mexico? See what would happen to you. See if the cartels are not going to come and tell you they want 15% of everything you sell. It's this notion of entitlement here in America that it's crazy, because what you do here in America, even if you have, like, for example, if you here, this business, this is your building here. I saw everything. There's no way you could be in Sinaloa, in Aguascalientes, Zacatecas, even parts of Jalisco, Michoacán, Guerrero, without you paying a tax to the cartels. It's that simple. And if you don't pay, you're going to die.
Today, now,
oh, no, absolutely today. You're going to pay a tax or you're going to die, right? And so, or your place is going to get burned down. You're going to get ran out of the city.
How does that? Do you know how that works? Do they go there and they say?
Oh, it's very simple. This is who we are. And then the way they mask it is they say that they're protecting you from the other cartels.
It's like a protection, right?
It's protection.
Say, hey, we're going to protect you. If you don't pay us, these guys are going to come after you. We can't protect you anymore.
Yeah, we can't protect you anymore. And the reality is they're the ones that kill you.
Yeah.
So it's this plata o plomo Pablo Escobar mentality. And so the reason I think it's hilarious that people are so quick to judge America is that go. By the way, go burn the Mexican flag in Mexico. Forget about the cartel. See what the citizens do to you. They'll hang you. They'll kill you. It's freedom of speech over there. Go try doing that shit over there. See what happens. Yeah. It's this high sense of entitlement that is very irritating to me of
American.
American entitlement.
Yeah.
It's American. It's just crazy. The propaganda is insane, that people are falling to here.
So what led you from being a high school dropout to running to the streets?
Look, it's nature versus nurture, right? So, I was raised by cowboys. More on my mom's side, in all fairness, not on my dad's side. They're not horseback riders on my dad's side. On my mom's side, my cousins are state champions here in California for
that's awesome.
for their rodeo, which is known as their charros, right, with the big hats and the
Cool.
My cousins are state champions. All my family are rancheros on my mom's side. That's the environment I was raised in. I was not raised in a gang environment. However, when we lived in East Bakersfield, when your friends are going to school and you see them wearing the Chuck Taylors, I was not in the Nike Cortez era. I was more of the Chuck Taylor era with the 501s and creased up and the big white tee and gangbanging. At that point, well, it doesn't matter what your nature is. I mean, what your nurture is. Now you're going to go with the nature of the environment you're in. So by no means was I raised by any type of gang members at all. But I was raised with gang members, not by gang members, but with gang members. So I wanted to be
Like they were in your circle.
They were in my circle. I grew up with them. I went to high school with them. All the hardest guys in the town, were from where I'm from. So that's what inclined me to want to join that lifestyle when I was 13 years old.
It's like who you surround yourself with. They're your average of the 5 people you're around, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
What did the judge say to you that still echoes in your mind?
So I was fighting my last case, 2014. I was fighting my last case, and the judge told me, because I have a long rap sheet since I was younger and my family and whatnot. He says, if I ever see you again, you're not going to see daylight. And so at that point, I'm making a lot of money. I live in a nice house. I'm driving a Hummer, boats, quads. I'm traveling. I got everything I want. Yeah. And I had to make a decision at that moment of what direction my life is going to go in. I'm not scared of... At that point, I was already engaged to my wife. Yeah. And I did it more for my wife than for myself. Not for myself because I don't care. And like I said, like I told you before, I've had uncles do 10, 15, 20. I have cousins doing life right now. Like, going to prison is just part of the process on my family side. Like, it's normal. Like, hey, we'll see you in 5 or 10 years. That's not like, it doesn't phase you. And it didn't phase me because I had already done time before. But my wife told me, hey, I if you continue this way, I can't be with you. And I knew that she was my fiance at the time. That's the love of my life. And we're still married to this day.
That's awesome.
And I said, okay, then I gotta do something different. It wasn't so much, believe it or not, it wasn't so much what the judge told me. It was more with my wife was in the courtroom with my mother when that happened. And after we left, we went to go have lunch. When we got back to my house, that's what she told me. If you continue like this, I can't be with you anymore. I was not raised like this. I know this is normal to you, but this is not normal to me. I come from a good household, good parents. Nobody in my family gets in trouble, and they don't get in trouble. None of them go to prison. None of them go to jail. None of them do anything illegal. She says, I was not raised like that, and I'm not going to disappoint my parents. So either you change or we're done. And at that moment, it's when I made the change.
I like that. You said you were making like $350K to $400K at 24 years old. Yeah. What did success mean to you back then?
It's just money and power. That was the only thing. That was the definition of success to me at that time, was money and power. When you walk into a room and especially in the Hispanic community, ego flares massively. And being the most powerful guy in the room when you walk in, I'm not saying that I was by any means, but having that status and being respected amongst other people that are kind of in your same environment, it meant everything. That was success to me. It's so much more than just the money and the influence. Was the respect. When I walked in anywhere, I had that respect, and people knew, like, that's not somebody you mess with because it's not going to go very well for you. Because I had already gained that reputation of doing that. Yeah.
So when you were dealing back then or doing whatever you're doing, did you believe you'd live past 30 years old?
No, absolutely not. I really thought that I would be dead or in prison for the rest of my life by the time I was 25. And ironically, that's when the judge says, hey, because that's at that point, by 25 years old, when you live the life that I lived, by 25 years old, you're a veteran. Like, really? You've lived a long life. Yeah, because you start your criminal
when you're like 14.
You're 14, you're 10 years in. By the time you're 25 years old, you're 10 years in. You're a
veteran.
Yeah, you're a veteran at that point. Yeah.
What was your breaking point, like when you said I'm done with this life?
That was it. I think that moment point. when my wife says I can't be with you anymore if you continue like this, I said, okay, then it's time to and then on top of that, a lot of heartache with my mother. I'm my mom's oldest son, but I'm my dad's middle son. So my mom and me have a very very tight bond, And I think at that point, I'm looking at the two most important women in my life at that time and said, okay, I think it's enough now.
And they were both there when
they were both there. But the only people in court, when I went to court, November of 2014 was my mother and my wife now, but she was my fiance at the time. And so I knew I needed to make a change.
So, talking about like the mental transformation and doing everything, how did you go from wearing a jumpsuit to building a suit and tie empire?
So, another thing that I did do, I worked in the oil fields for many years. I worked in the oil, but it was just something to kind of have the cops off my ass. You know, I mean, I was making so much more money on the outside. I didn't show up a lot of the time. You know, I made sure I was on that time card, but I didn't show up half of the time. But I'm not going to get to that because I would be exposing guys that are still working there, and I don't want to put them in any kind of trouble if this podcast ever gets to them. But they know who they are. They made sure that I was on that time clock. Anyway, my brother gets introduced to the financial services industry, and he meets Patrick. Mm-hmm. And my brother says, "Hey, would you consider, insurance?" And I'm like, "Bro, do I look like Jake from State Farm to you? Do I look like I'm gonna put on some fucking khakis and a red shirt to you? No, bro." I said, "You want to open up a dealership? I'm down. You want to open up a restaurant? I'm down. My dad knows how to do that. We'll call him." And I said, "Shit, you want to sell drugs? I'm down. But I'm not gonna follow you into no financial services industry." And so, but he goes at it. I give it to him. He goes at it because I would not be in this industry if it wasn't for him. He's my younger brother, Alejandro. He's retired. He lives in Mexico now. He's 35 years old, makes $500,000, and he's just chilling in Mexico because this industry pays that way, and that's the way it works. Anyway, 2014, he kind of starts. 15, he's doing okay. 16, he starts making $20,000 a month, and I'm like, man, if he could
3 years in,
he was 2 years in.
2 years in. Wow.
Yeah, 2 years in. 14, 15, by 16, early 16, he's making about 20 grand a month. And I said to myself, man, if he could make 20, I can make 40. That's the only thing that went through my mind. Because my brother, though me and my brother were raised in the same house, me and my brother were not alike at all. My mom protected him a lot. And didn't expose him to as much as I was exposed to. Mm-hmm. He did not carry a lot of the family traditions the way I did. And to this day, he's his own guy. And he was not really one to follow the footsteps of the family. I was. He wasn't hustling at 13 years old. I was. You know what I mean? He was always been a good kid. And so I said to myself, shit, if he doesn't have not that he's not a hard worker. My brother's an extremely hard worker. To this day, he's a hog. He's retired now, but he was that guy could outwork anybody. You drive 10 guys, put him up against my brother, he'll outwork all of them, right? Wow. One thing I'll give you my brother. However, he didn't have that hustler mentality back then. Mm-hmm. So it's not like he comes in to this industry having a hustler mentality. So he learned that. And I'm like, man, if he's learning this and he's making 20 grand a month, I could make double. So when I'm there at that pivot point in my life, that why of where we're going to go either this way or that way, I said, okay, man, shit, if you're making that kind of money, bro, I think I can make double. And I got introduced to it, and I met Patrick actually 2015. I met him in Vegas. I met him one more time in Pasadena. And I said, okay, I like what he stands for and where he's going, and I'm going to follow him all the way. And here we are, almost 10 years later. I was having a meeting with him today. I'll be in Florida with him on Monday. Nice. So, and he's been my mentor, my coach, my friend. But first, like I tell everybody, he's my coach and my mentor first. But we have we've traveled the world together. We built the company together. Our bond is very tight. But that's the transition of how it happened. I didn't care too much for the industry. I cared more about, man, if my brother can do it, I can do it. And if it wasn't for my younger brother, I would not be in this industry. I would be doing something. It just wouldn't be this industry. But I'm happy I landed here.
So what was your first clean win that proved you could do this the right way?
So when I started in 2016, nobody had ever in their first month made 10 grand. And PHP was still fairly young. When I started with PHP only had 2,500 licensed agents, which only about 800 were active. It was not a big company. Now we're 65,000. We're across the country, including Puerto Rico. We're getting invited to president's events and whatnot, but we were not that back then. Patrick's just, world-known person. Now, he was not known back then. We were a new company. And so my first month, I made 6 figures in the first 10 months, and that was unheard of in the company back then. I'm talking about almost 10 years ago. And I was making $10,000 a month every month from the time I started. And so that when I saw that, I'm like, damn, I made 10 grand in my first month with no experience. Oh shit, it's game over. And so
and it's like commission, it's profit. It's not like there's no overhead on that, right?
Yeah, there's no salary. There's no it's all your hustle.
Yeah.
It's all your hustle. Yeah, there's no overhead either. I said, okay, well, let's roll. Let's make it happen. And so that first year we made about 110. Second year we made about 283. Third year I made about 670,000. Fourth year I made like 800 and something. Fifth year I made 800 and something. And then in my sixth year I hit a 7-figure income.
Nice.
Yeah. So here we
How'd
are.
that
now.
feel?
You know, I will tell you that people ask me that too. Like when I bought my first Lambo in 2009, like, how does it feel? I'm like, to be honest with you, it's not like winning the lottery because you work for it. So you know it's supposed to happen.
You knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming. Like, so I'm like, I was thankful to God and grateful to Patrick and my leaders and my coaches and mentors, but I'm like, no, it was supposed to happen. I'm not surprised. I know the work that I've been putting in to hit a 7-figure income and become a millionaire. So I was not like, oh my God, because that happens when you're not expecting something, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, like, lottery or a surprise you weren't expecting. And but when you're working your ass off and then like, hey, you made $1 million this year. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
I was supposed to make it. You know what I mean? So, and I don't mean that in an egotistical
No, it'd be like
way.
a problem if you didn't, because it's like, why am I mean, we have a target, we have a goal, right? And,
you're
you know
chasing
where
that target.
you're focused on it.
Of course.
So what's the difference between street confidence and spiritual confidence?
Well, I'm sorry, what was the question?
So what's the difference between street confidence and spiritual confidence?
Ooh, they're so different. Street confidence is, you know that you can push your way with somebody, and if you don't get what you want, you can force your way on them. Yeah, you can push up against them, and I did that for many years.
Yeah.
Spiritual confidence is you're not the boss, God is, and you can't force your way with God. Either you submit, and you do what He says, how He says, or you're not going to get anything in return. So one is a very egotistical, arrogant, self-serving drive. The other one is very unegotistical, very humble and servant confidence of saying, okay, I'm going to put things in God's hands and I'm going to do what He asked me to do as much as I can. I'm not perfect by any means, but man, they're dramatically different. One feels good and the other one doesn't. When right now I think that I'm on the spiritual side with God, and He's blessed me in so many different ways to be able to evolve as a man and show me the light of who I'm supposed to be, as opposed to who I thought I should be because of my upbringing or because of my old mentalities and desires and ways of thinking. So, yeah, they're completely different. And I think that's why a lot of people have a hard time submitting to that, because you don't get to do what you want when you're spiritually confident. You got to do what God says, or it's not going to work out very well for you. So, yeah, dramatically different. Great question. Nobody's ever asked me that one before. It's a great question.
Did you lose friends when you started to change your life?
All of them. So,
Still coming up.
there's two reasons businesses go out of business. Either they grow too fast or they grow too slow. If they grow too slow, there's not enough revenue. If they grow too fast and you don't have the infrastructure, you're fucked. So you have to be able to have a system that allows you to scale without you doing all the work. You have to delegate. I started my journey in the financial services industry April of 2016, bro. Mm-hmm. My wedding was set October of 2016.
That's interesting. I'm interested.
Yeah. October of 2016, me and my wife were like, our crews are like the it crews. Like, my guys, we're like the guys. Like, we got the money.
You guys are both popular.
The popular guys.
Yeah.
We go to the clubs. People know who we are. And then hers are the pretty girls, everybody knows. They walk in, they're classy. They're not raggedy. They're not like,
They're
twerking.
not ratchet.
Huh?
They're not ratchet.
They're not ratchet. They walk in, they look
Classy,
nice and classy. Our crews, they were the it crews. So our wedding was gonna be like, man, they're getting married, dude. Like, this is the wedding of the year for Bakersfield, And so anyway, by the time my wedding comes around, I got rid of my entire bridal party because none of them supported me. So I had eight grooms. No, I'm lying. I had six groomsmen and 6 bridesmaids. Yeah. I had a best man and everything, and we ended up getting rid of the whole. We told them all, no, thank you. Yeah, we're good. So we went from supposed to have, and because that's the number. Yeah. We were supposed to have 350 people at our wedding because that's the limit that we wanted. We could have had a hell of a lot more. I think we ended up having about 150. More than half of the list, we told them we didn't want them at our wedding anymore.
Yeah.
Because we embarked in this new journey and they were not.
So the story here is that the moral of the story is like when you start to change, go in a different direction, especially when you're going the direction of like success and like I'm going to make sacrifice to get to the real life.
It's not the success, Quinn. I was successful before I came to PHP. It's how you're going about it. Mm-hmm. It's the journey you're embarking. I used to think like they're jealous of your success.
Moral,
Yes, it's the ethics, the morals, the values that you're not partying anymore because you're building your business. You're not out. I'm not out spending $3,000-$4,000 in the club because I got to invest it in my business. You're not getting drunk on a Sunday and having these barbecues, and you're completely disconnected.
Yep.
I ghosted everybody for 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
And even including family. I barely started going to family functions maybe a couple years ago. Not because I didn't want to. I had business to take care of. And that was very difficult for a lot of people to understand. But I mean, even with my cousins, I had cousins that wouldn't talk to me. That are blood cousins that I grew. I'm the oldest cousin on my mom's side. I'm the oldest one. I'm viewed as the older brother for all of them.
Yeah.
Some of them I barely started talking to maybe a year ago. After I started my journey here in entrepreneurship. Yeah.
It's a common thing around people that are building an empire, building things the right way, building like you everyone says it, right? Like I've been experiencing it. Like people had a best friend working for me, for a while and that didn't work out.
No.
And it's like you start and that doesn't really work either, right? It's like
working with family never works.
Yeah,
or
tough
very close friends
because there has to be accountability. Yeah,
and they don't want to be.
They don't want to be held accountable. Yeah,
no, they don't.
That's it. We could do a whole podcast on that.
Oh my God, that's a whole subject in itself.
So what's the biggest lie people believe about redemption?
The biggest lie people believe about redemption, Ooh. That you're shackled to your past forever, no matter what you do. Yeah, I think that's the biggest lie about redemption. By the way, Moses experienced it when he was going to free God's people. For what was it, 7 years he was gone, and God kept calling him back, and he wouldn't go. He's like, me? Why me? God's chosen men. By the way, Samson's story is a story of redemption. He was the strongest man in the world to this day, and he fucked up. He was laying with the prostitute and betrayed God's secret to him, which was his hair, and that God won't forgive you, won't give you the strength for one more push, and I think that's the biggest misconception, the biggest lie that we believe, that God won't forgive, or forget about something. Even if you're watching this and you're an atheist, that you can't forgive yourself for things that you've done in the past. And I think to me, the Samson story is always one that gets to me, man. Always, 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 because he's sitting there, they're laughing at him, and they have him tied up to the pillars, and he just asked God, give me strength one more time, just one more time. And he gave it to him. And, he killed as many Philistines as he could, and he went with them, but God said, okay, I'll give it to you. I'll give you that one more shot and to redeem yourself. And I don't know if we're going to go to heaven or we're going to stay on earth and live in a paradise. But he is one of the people that I want to meet if God gives me the opportunity. I want to meet Samson and ask him, God gave you these gifts. How did you fall for Delilah? How? What were you thinking? Not because of judgment, because I want to know, because I've been there. And then what made you ask God to give you strength one more time? What gave you the confidence? What made you think that he would do that for you one more time, knowing that you defrauded him? Why did you still ask for him to give you strength one more time? He's one of the people that I would want to have a conversation with. Anybody in the Bible, if I could sit down with Samson and do a podcast with him in heaven or paradise, that's one person I would want to have a conversation with.
That would be an interesting podcast.
Absolutely. And Peter, too. Was it Peter or Paul, the one that used to persecute Christians? I know the name is Spanish, but
Paul, right?
It was Paul, I believe.
Saul was Paul, and then Paul
became... he persecuted Christians. He killed Christians.
Yep. And then he became
one of the apostles, one of God's faithful men, Jesus' faithful men.
And he wrote, I think Paul wrote books in the Bible, right?
Of course. Of course.
And he was in jail too, right?
Yeah. He was arrested and everything. And
persecuted.
Persecuted. He went from being the hunter to the hunted. Yeah. So when you read those stories in the Bible, you realize that God really gives you an opportunity When you're chosen, you're chosen. That's why we're named the chosen ones.
I was gonna ask you
Yeah.
where that comes from, and you know, I just having a business myself, like you go through all these highs and lows, right? It's like it's I mean, when people come to me that work for me, they're like, I should just open my own business. I'm like, go ahead, I'll help you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, because it's people just think it's so easy, you know,
my God.
and they don't realize like the sacrifice you put. And I think for me, it's like eventually, like there's just like there's so much on your shoulders. It's like I have to believe that God's got my back, and like
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
I can't
absolutely.
control all these things, and I can show up every day and do everything, but like there has to be more than me that like to make me show up every day, right?
course.
And so, I like that. I like the chosen ones. That's
Mm-hmm.
cool. So what's the difference between managing 5 agents and now 2,200 agents?
Man, everything. It's a,
Yeah,
it's a whole
I'm
different
interested,
ballgame.
like the systems processes.
Yeah. Oh no.
and-
Look, I have to give it up. I have 6 assistants right now.
Okay.
Pam, Palmira, Gracie, Sonia, Jasmine, and Jenny. And
Okay.
there's no way I can manage all this without them.
Do they each do like different,
They all have their own different tasks.
roles?
Yes, they all do their own different tasks.
So they all manage certain things for
Certain
you, kind
things
of,
that-
and then
yes.
you kind of
Those
help.
are my systems.
Okay.
They name themselves this, but we call them the engines, the TCO engines.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're called the engines. They named themselves that, the engines.
So how does it work?
So, well, because your agents have, like, for example, if you try to get them licensed, they have to go through a whole system. You know, Sonia and Jenny help with that. Then they want to become
All the
licensed.
paperwork, all the testing, all the studying. Cool.
Everything.
Okay, get them set up.
Get them set up, and then
Okay.
production. Jasmine and Palmira take care of that. So once they're licensed agents, well, what companies do we go through? Who do we have? I have a question with this policy. How does this work? How does that work? Well, those girls are the ones that help with that. And then we have Pam's on leave right now. She just had a baby yesterday, so she'll be gone for a few months. She's been with me many years. But then I have Gracie. Gracie does all my scheduling. You know, hey, you got to be over here. You got to be over there. You got to do this. You got to do that. You have this meeting. You have this. You have that. You got to call so-and-so back. You have this. You get this email. You got to reply to this. She keeps me on she's my boss. Gracie's my boss. And
Okay.
so, you know.
She organizes your schedule,
She
make
organizes
sure-
everything for me. It's so funny. I pay her, but she's my boss, you know?
Yeah,
You
that's
got to be
good.
on this. You got to get on this. You got to do this. You got to do that, you know? You got to prepare for this. You got to prepare for that. And there's no way I'd be on top of everything if it wasn't for my girls. As far as the system side of things,
Okay.
it's they allow us to be able to function correctly. Without them, me and my wife would not be able to function. You have to have an infrastructure. There's 2 reasons businesses go out of business. Either they grow too fast or they grow too slow. If they grow too slow, there's not enough revenue. If they grow too fast and you don't have the infrastructure, you're fucked. So you have to be able to have a system that allows you to scale without you doing all the work. You have to delegate. You got to delegate. You know, like we have your guys here, right? Cameraman, editor. Without that, this podcast does not, you know, we're just the face, but it doesn't mean that the people in the background play any less of a role. No, they
Takes a
play-
village.
It takes a village. And that's how we're able to go from 5 agents to 2,200 agents. And obviously, that's the tangibles. But then the intangibles are leadership. Everything starts and ends with leadership. And you leading by example. If you don't lead by example, nobody will follow you. It don't matter. You could have all the systems in the world. You could get ready to get ready. And have all the assistants and all the systems and a beautiful building and a beautiful site and a beautiful banner, and you walk in. But if you're not doing shit, none of it's gonna work. So leadership by far on the intangibles is the most important thing to growing an organization. Yeah. So I think that plays a major role.
Shout out to Allison Chavez for getting you on here, by the way.
She's a beast. I love Allison.
She's one of your chosen ones.
She is. She's one of the chosen ones. I love Allison. Great
Uh,
attitude.
Great attitude. So what's a moment in PHP that made you emotional?
Oh, yeah, there's too many to name, but it's always been the victories of the people in my team. I'll give you one right now that we have. I have Alonzo Aguilar. He's not my family. People are like, oh, your family? No. So he's an immigrant from Sinaloa. He grew up in Sinaloa, fought leukemia, went to college over there, came to the States at 17, 18 years old, worked in the fields picking grapes for $450 a week. And now, fast forward, here we are 8 years later. When I first met him, I had to teach him the language, and then I had to teach him business because he had no notion of either. And now he runs one of my biggest team right now.
Wow.
He has about agents. Out of the 2,200, about 500 are his. And he runs one of my highest operating offices. And now he makes $40,000 a month. He went from making $450 a week to making $10,000 a week. And that's when I get emotional. When I see my guys win. When I see my brokers. I have over 50 brokers at this point. So it's brokers, and then it's the agents. And the agents eventually, like real estate, they move up to become brokers. I have 50 of them. And watching them win and accomplish their goals is the most beautiful thing that I can experience, even over my own victories.
So how do you keep 2,000 people like locked in when you know the money gets good?
Well, the thing is that's what we have the brokers for. So they manage. I deal more with my brokers, and then they deal with their teams. So each broker has, some of them have a hell of a lot more than others. Like, for example, Alonzo has the biggest one. He has the biggest team. He has 500 of them. So then, but then the other brokers have 100, maybe 50, so on and so forth.
So explain it to me, because like this is like, when I hear this, like all the different things, like I'm sure people can think like pyramid scheme or like it's different. So break it down. Like, how do you see it as a business? And it obviously you got making money. So
real estate, it's like real estate.
So that's how you, okay.
Like, for example, Century 21.
Yeah.
That's just Century 21. That's PHP.
Okay.
Then it has, I'm sure, I don't know the position, but I'm sure they have a senior broker.
Okay.
I'm the senior broker.
Okay.
Then there's brokers.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then there's agents. It's the same structure.
So, like, for example, you said your brother brought you in. He's making, $500,000 a month sitting in Mexico.
Passive.
So does that mean he's under you, and then now he gets a piece? I mean, you're under him because he brought you in, and now everything you built, he's getting like a portion of that.
Yes, because that's the way insurance pays.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with PHP.
Got it. That's just the insurance business.
That's just the insurance.
It's just like if I buy health insurance from this guy every year when I renew, he's going to get something from that.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, but on top of that, he pay. My brother makes a portion of our sales.
Yeah.
That's where he gets his money from. So
what do you guys sell? Like, what is the insurance? I don't.
Index Universal Life.
Okay.
Which is permanent cash value policies.
Yeah. It's like annuities, or
we do annuities as well, but it's separate. They're two different things. I don't know all this stuff. No problem. No big deal. We do index annuities.
Yeah.
Lump sums, how people move over their money from their 401ks, mutual funds, stocks, bonds into a 401k, into a annuity. Why? 401ks are they fluctuate too much in the market. They're not safe. There's really no benefit to having a 401k. They're just not. I could do a whole podcast on financials, bro.
So you would like sit prospective client down. You would explain to them like how a 401k doesn't make sense, and then why you should do this instead.
Why you should do an IUL, Index Universal Life Policy. So there's a policy. Most people think of life insurance as you're dead, it pays out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the majority of Americans believe that.
Or they don't get it, or too many people try to sell it to them, and they like it doesn't make sense.
No, ironically, not enough people try to sell it to them. So because there's not enough, there's only.
I've heard of it before, but nobody's pitched it to me.
Yeah, so there's only 500,000 licensed agents in America. There's not a lot of agents to do what we do. So the Index Universal Life works like this.
Still coming up.
What does real freedom mean to you now?
I don't have to follow the footsteps of what I saw growing up. I'm free of that. I broke those chains, and so can you.
So what's the one piece of advice that you would give to a couple trying to build wealth together?
Let's just say you had a life insurance for $500,000. You're paying, I don't know, $70 a month.
Okay.
Let's just say it's an example. That's a term insurance. 30 years, it's done. You didn't die, cool. No problem. But the policy's over. Okay.
Oh, it's like it has like a cutoff, pretty much.
That's a term. It's a simple term.
Term policy.
Term policy. The IUL works in a different fashion. It's permanent. It's with you forever. And so what?
Until you die.
Until you die. Okay. And so that one, what happens? It has two sides to it. It has the life insurance side, and then it has the cash value side. Mm-hmm. So when you make the monthly premium, whatever you want it to be, I have clients that are doing $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. I have clients that are doing $2,000-$3,000 a month.
And it's the value of the payout at the end, or there's an investment purpose that
there's an investment purpose. Okay. So then I say, okay, for example, I want an IUL. Okay, how much insurance you want? $500,000, no problem. Okay, that insurance is going to cost you, because it's permanent. Remember, it's for the rest of your life. It does not end at 30 years. That's going to cost you $110 a month, as an example, as a minimum. But how much do you want to put into the cash value side, which is the other portion of it? I want to do an extra $300 a month. Okay, cool. So now you're paying $410.
Okay.
Because a portion is going to pay the life insurance. Mm-hmm. The other $300 are going into your cash value account.
Okay.
This cash value account, it ranges, but it's anywhere between 6 to 12% returns on a monthly basis. Interest.
It's like S&P 500 better.
It mirrors the S&P 500. It mirrors it, but it's not in the S&P. It mirrors the S&P. So then it does a participation in it. So it'll do anywhere between 6 and 12%. Last year, one of our companies did 9.25%. One of the other companies did 12%. Now, keep in mind, I'm not an insurance company. I represent America's biggest insurance companies. They're the oldest insurance companies in America. I have one of the companies, and again, for marketing reasons, for copyright reasons, I'm not going to say the names of the companies. If somebody wants to send me a DM and they can ask me that's been publicly, I just, that's just the way they want us to do things. But we have one company that's been around since 1848. If you put State Farm, Farmers, Allstate, and Progressive and Geico together, they're still combined. They're still not as old as that company. I represent America's oldest insurance company, most powerful insurance companies. So then they give a return on the money. And then on top of that, because it falls under tax code 7702, let's say you're doing $2,000 a month into a policy or $1,000 a month into a policy. And you say, you know what I want to, like, for example, I could tell you probably added this room, right? I'm assuming you added this room, this here. Or was this already here?
We've changed it up, but it was here when I got it.
Okay, when you got it. Let's assume
it's like bonus.
Okay, bonus. Cool. Perfect. Let's say it wasn't here.
Okay.
And it's going to cost you 30 grand to build.
Okay.
Right? Because you have AC, you have all this infrastructure. Instead of going to the bank and grabbing your money from the bank, you grab the money from your IUL. You're not going to pay taxes on it. It's tax code 7702. It's an exemption for life insurance, tax exemption.
Gotcha.
So when you pull the money out, you take it out as a loan. You don't want to take it out as a withdrawal. Why?
Because borrow against it.
Borrow against it. But let me explain to you why. Because you don't lose a compound effect. Meaning that if you take it as let's say you have $100,000. I
get what you're saying, because it's still in there, so it still can grow.
It still can grow. So let's say you have 100,000 and you pull out 30,000 as a withdrawal.
Yeah, you just lost 30K that could
You
grow.
lost 30K that could be compounded.
9% or 10%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now what ends up happening is if you take it out as a loan, it's the account will simulate that you still have $100,000 there.
Right.
So you're gaining interest on 100,000. So then you build this, and then cool, I'm done. Let's put the money back. But you never pay taxes on it. On top of that, it has a 0% floor. So if the market goes up, you go up with it. If the market crashes for whatever reason, you locked in your gains and your capital. You don't lose a dime. So it acts like a staircase. Market goes up, you go up with it. Market crashes, you don't lose anything. You don't gain anything, but you won't lose anything. But none of our policies have ever done a 0%. They just don't. The market goes up, you go up with it. It's a staircase. So you're locking in your capital and your gains. And the reason why it's so many people are using this over a 401k, 401k doesn't offer life insurance. 401k doesn't offer security. The market drops, you're losing money. 401k doesn't offer tax benefits. 401k doesn't offer living benefits. Here's the other part of it. So you are in roofing. I'm assuming you have teams, you have crews, right? Okay. Let's say I'm your manager, I'm your supervisor on one of your jobs, okay? And I'm on the roof and I fall and I break a leg.
Right.
Okay? There's nothing you can do for me. I'm going to have to go on state disability.
Workers' comp.
Workers' comp. It's only going to give me 1/3 of my bill, of my income. One third.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But what can you do about it? You can't do nothing about it. That's what you pay all the workers' comp for.
That's why you have insurance.
That's what you have insurance for. These insurance policies have something called living benefits. It has terminal illness, chronic illness, critical injury, and accidental injury. I'm your supervisor. I fall off the roof and I break a leg and an arm. Now I can do a claim to the insurance company on the death benefit side of it. Not necessarily the cash. I don't have to touch my cash value. I can now use a portion of my life insurance during my lifetime to give me supplemental income until I'm able to go back to work. I'll give you an example. We have a client. He goes camping. He works in the oil and refinery business. He goes camping. He takes off his trailer he takes the hitch off the trailer, okay, off of the ball, takes it off, but he's wearing sandals. He already came back. He cleaned his trailer, did all his stuff. Picks it up, sets it down. Well, he didn't realize that he set the stub down on his toe. He literally split his toe in half. Literally split it in half. Obviously, he can't work. He has to wear boots every day.
Yeah.
He was off for 4 months. The insurance company gave him $4,800 a month for those 4 months until he went back to work as a supplemental income. Why is this extremely important? 70% of Americans will suffer a critical illness during their lifetime. You're going to use this policy no matter what during your lifetime. You're going to use it. 40-something% will get a terminal illness. By the way, according to the American Cancer Society, 1 in every 4 Americans will get cancer in their lifetime. At some point in time, you're going to use this policy. Why? Let's assume you make $10,000 a month. And you have your bill set at $10,000 a month. Yeah. You have your bill set at $6,000 a month. Okay? And you have a $4,000 discretionary between the 6 and the 10. Okay. Out of nowhere, you're going home. You're minding your business. You're going home. And you get T-boned. And they break your ribs. And now you can't work. Your job's not going to keep paying you while you're gone. Disability will only give you 1/3 of your income. That means your $10,000 just became.
And you can call up the life insurance and say, "Hey, I'm in disability.
I'm in a disability." They'll have you fill out some forms. You send it to them.
And they'll give you access to some of the money.
And they'll give you access to some of that money.
So yeah, it sounds like.
Well, the reason I share that with you, Quinn, before I move on, is because did you know 60% of bankruptcies happen because people are not ready for a tragedy to happen to them? 60% of bankruptcies happen not because, oh, the market did bad because I lost my job. People think that 60% of bankruptcies happen because you get hurt or you get sick, you can't work, and you start defaulting on your bills.
Interesting.
Not because of medical bills.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, it's medical bills. No. Don't confuse it.
Okay.
60% of people go into bankruptcy not because of the medical bills. It's because they don't have a supplemental
they don't have income.
They don't have
income to pay their stuff.
To pay their stuff. So they have to default on things. They're going to default. What are the first thing they're going to start to default on? Their house. Because they already know you can't get kicked out for a year. Then next, it's going to be their cars. And then their whole
so this product gives, like, there's so many tools and ways you can
many things.
Investment, if God forbid something happens to you, your family's covered. Like it's a product that, I mean, it sounds, I don't think a lot of people understand it.
Right.
I think that's the thing, because when I hear it, sometimes it gets a bad rep, and the way you just explained it to me, it makes a lot of sense, right?
Of course.
And so that's probably, I would say, I mean, I'm guessing that's your mission with your team, right? Is to explain this to people so you can help a lot more people. You know,
of course.
If you know they could, if you're saying all the bankruptcy statistic, right? Then this could solve that problem for a lot of people.
Of course. So the IUL does 3 functions. It's a life insurance policy in case you immediately die. It's a living benefits policy in case you need it. And then it has a cash value side for retirement or whatever you want. It doesn't have to, you don't have to wait for retirement. You can pull that money out in 5-10 years, 3 years. As long as you have money in there, you can pull money out to use it for whatever you want. And you don't have to worry about you losing it in the stock market. It's the most popular path people. Matter of fact,
I'm glad you explained that, because I don't think a lot of people know these details.
Brother, you can look it up right now.
Yeah.
And it's on fire in TikTok right now. Like, people are starting to become aware. Believe it or not, I don't have a hard time. When I sit down with clients, bro, they're like, I've kind of heard of it, but I didn't know how it worked.
Yeah.
Or it's the first time I hear about it, but it makes sense. Like, it's people are not opposed to it. They're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, oh yeah, I didn't know that exists. Okay, well, I'm putting $500 a month into my 401k. Let me just put it over here instead. Like, it happened to me yesterday. I had a guy in San Jose. Shout out to him. I won't say his name, just keep his name private. But he's like, hey, bro, I'm putting my money into 401k, but I know it's junk. Like, I've always known it's junk, but I don't know what other avenue to take. No problem. I sat him down with my wife. My wife is an account specialist. She's the one that has a license to do all that. How much money are you putting in 401k? Okay, let's just allocate your 401k money to your IUL. Okay, cool. Boop. That's what we did. You go through approval process. Hopefully you get approved. Not everybody gets approved because the insurance, it's still a life insurance. If you have bad health or bad criminal record, you're more than likely not going to get approved. So then you still got to go through an approval process. So be like, well, I got to think about it. I'm like, the insurance company got to think about if they want you. You're the liability, not them. So it's not about let me think about it, which I don't get that often. Yeah. But if I do get it, I'm like, I don't think you understand how this works. I still got to apply.
Yeah.
And hopefully you get approved.
Yeah.
It's not 100% up to you.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't happen often, but it happens once every 40 appointments. I'm like, let me think about it. I'm like, I don't think you understand how this works.
I can tell you love your wife, man.
I love her to death.
You brought her up so many times in this podcast.
She's my soulmate. I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for my wife, bro.
I believe it, bro. After that's amazing. And I honestly, I don't believe I'd be where I am right now without my wife.
She's the only one that keeps me sane.
How do you and your wife? How did you and your wife decide to lead a business together?
She didn't choose it, man. I just dragged her in here. I just told her. I said, "Hey, look, this is what we're doing," and then my wife's a ride or die. She's like, "All right, babe, whatever you say, let's roll."
What's the biggest challenge in mixing marriage with leadership? And actually, that's a question that I'm personally curious about a lot, because yeah. I want to know. I want to know what your take on this, bro.
Yeah, it's turning off the switch when you get home.
Yeah.
It's turning off the switch. Here's what you need to know. When you marry an entrepreneur, he's on 24/7. He's on 24/7. My wife knows I'm on 24/7. She knows this. But it's not about her knowing it. It's about me knowing that she also needs her time. And being able to read that. You know, like, you got to read the room, you know? And there's times where I'm telling her, hey, babe, this, and this, and this in the business. And she's, okay, babe. And I can tell, like, okay, she's had enough. Does that make sense? Like, she's not being rude.
You can read it. You can read it.
Yeah, you can read it. You can read the energy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I got to shut up now. You know, like, okay, babe, let's go get an ice cream. Let's go have lunch. Let's go watch a movie. Let's go do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's finding the time to do things that matter, that make you happy. It's finding the time to do things that make you happy. And
you got two jobs. You got the marriage job and you got the business.
Well, because you and me, you know,
but it's not a job. It's not a job.
Yeah, it's not a job. Yeah, yeah. But as a man, you're in provider mode all the time.
Yeah.
But you got to be in husband mode. The wives are not like that. Wives can care less.
Have you always had that, or did you start to build that?
No, I had to learn how to build that. I had to learn. No, I didn't always have that. I was taught to be a machine, brother. My dad would tell me since I was a child, your number one job and your only job in this world is to make money. I was taught to be a machine. I was not taught to worry about anything else.
What's a fight you and your wife had that made you better business partners?
What fight? We would fight a lot about to make us better business partners. I don't tell her what to do anymore. I just do what I do and I let her do what she does. Huh?
You said anymore?
Anymore. I don't tell her to do it like, babe, we gotta do this, we gotta do that.
Yeah.
And I learned that. That's my job to do it all. And just hope, and not hope, but let her know, like, instead of saying, hey babe, I need you to do this, right? But like, hey babe, you mind helping me with this? I need a little bit of help, a little bit, you know, I gotta take care of this. Yeah, babe. As opposed to, even though my wife is very submissive, she's very old school, very traditional, my wife still doesn't like to be told what to do, you know? And so my wife I would be like, hey, I need you to handle this, right? I need you to take care of this. And all right, but kind of like, you know, not with the best attitude about it. But now, like, hey babe, I need your help with this. If you can help me out with it, please, and I'm taking care of this. And if you can help me, man, it would take a lot of stress off of me.
Okay, the way you ask,
it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
You know, me and my wife, like, my wife comes, she helps me work, like, she's pushed me a lot in the business, and she helps keep pushing me grow, and she's amazing, man. I want you to meet her after. And so she's here all the time, but, like, just recently, like, we've had some things where, like, she's trying to, like, step up and defend me and protect me on things, and I'm like, you shouldn't say things that way, you shouldn't do that. And when I tell her, like, where I think I'm, like, coaching or trying to help, like, it triggers something where it's like, dude, and I'm like, fuck, I shouldn't have even said anything. Like, it just would have been better.
It's not that you shouldn't say anything. It's not that you shouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's all it is, brother. It's
I think you're 100% right, because she told me that too.
Yeah, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so, you know, I've had to learn, because I'm an Aries and I have ADHD. I'm not a hothead, but I'm not a hothead, and I used to be very short-tempered. Mm-hmm. So now I have to, like, I still battle that. So
do you have kids?
Not that I know of. Nobody's told me to. I'm just kidding. No, not right now. But I'm very impatient.
Okay.
But I was a bad combination before. I was hothead, short-tempered, and impatient. Right now I'm just impatient. But I had to learn to, like, babe, come here. Let me talk to you. Right, what's up? Hey, look, babe, this and this. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Anything what could I improve on? You know this. I really didn't like when you said it like this. Okay, babe, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, cool. Boom. And just having that, dropping the ego, not wanting to win the argument. You know, Dr. Phil says something very interesting. He says, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right?
I like that.
I want to be happy.
I want to be happy.
I don't always need to be right.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's times where I've told her something and I'm right. And she knows that I'm right. And I know that I'm right. But her feelings don't care that I'm right.
It makes a lot of sense.
Her feelings don't care. She knows it.
Yeah.
But she feels a certain way.
Yeah, it makes sense to me because women are it's
They're emotional creatures.
Yeah, and so you just said it spot on, right? Like she knows you're right, but it doesn't. It's the logic isn't playing a part in that.
No, it's not going to play a part
because it's about like she just wants to feel your love and support,
That's it.
and not about that you choosing to be right, making her unhappy.
Yeah, I've done something. I like one time. I've done this plenty of times years ago. I would like, you know, kind of like, hey, this and this and this, and she knows I'm right. And then, but if she felt a certain way, she's so cute. My wife's so cute. She'll be like, I'm like, babe, come here. Oh, okay, but apologize to me. And I'm like, apologize to you for what? I didn't do nothing. But that's all right, babe. Come here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being right. Like,
yes.
But she doesn't mean it in a maleficent. What is it? Maleficent.
Wants to feel your support.
She just you know just wants me to just to break the ice. Like just apologize to me. You know, like. But I didn't do nothing. Yeah, but apologize to me anyway. But she doesn't. She's not trying to get that edge on me. She
used to think in the beginning if my wife would say things like that, she just wants to be like in control or something. And
it depends. You can feel it though.
That.
You'll know.
Yeah.
You'll like if they're trying to be malicious, you'll know.
So how do you balance like the husband mode and the CEO mode?
It's to this day it's still a tough one, man. You'll catch it. You'll never have it fine tuned. You know. I run a big agency. I'm one of the leaders of the company. I have a lot on my plate, man. I have a lot. I run one of the biggest teams, even in the industry, not just in PHP. And it's tough. You know, it's tough. I'm dealing with a lot of people, a lot of things going on. But what I'm learning to do right now, because to say that I've got it down is a very unfair and giving myself too much credit. I just try to read the room. Like I tell her something. If I'm talking to her, I catch myself midway. Like, okay, she's not in business mode right now. She needs attention, you know? Okay, so let me just drop it in. And sometimes, bro, I'm in the middle of, like, for example, I had a meeting this morning. I'm here. I'm meeting with you right now. I have another meeting after I'm done with you in Irvine. Then I got to go back to Bakersfield. And, you know, I've been kind of feeling her, like, she made a comment yesterday, like, you know, hey, babe, is the pool clean? And I'm like, yeah, it's clean. So, okay. Like, I already know, like, she wants to kind of get away a little bit, like she wants to go swimming or do something, you know.
Okay.
And so like you gotta. So
you notice those hints. And
you gotta like women
attention.
give you hints, whether they be verbal or facial or body language. They're giving you the hint.
Yeah.
You gotta read it, you know. And when you miss it sometimes, but you gotta read it. You gotta read. You know, my wife is she's very clingy. Excuse me. So this morning when we woke up, she gets a little closer to me than she usually does. And I'm like, okay, she wants me to hug her. Like, you got to be able to, babe, as soon as I wake up, I'm on. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
fuck, I got to get back to these five people. I got to call this one.
Yeah. I mean, I have 15 messages I got to get back to.
Yeah.
And so, but it's like, at that moment, that's the important thing. You know, my wife is still, it's God, family, business. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to sacrifice time with my family sometimes for the business. It's important not to confuse these things.
I like how you said that.
But at that moment, I have to read the room. My mom messaged me last night, 10:30 at night. And I haven't seen you. I miss you. Because I'm always on the go. I text her, my mom, sorry, I'm busy, but I'll see you soon. Like, there's still that sacrifice. There's still that sacrifice of things got to get done. You know, I buy my mom a brand new car every year. We were able to retire her. She traveled the world. Like,
that's awesome.
You know, because of what we've done. So she's also patient with me. But it gets to a point to a women where their patience ends. Because there's no new bag or new car or new jewelry that you can buy them to make them happy anymore. They want you.
So what's the one piece of advice that you would give to a couple trying to build wealth together?
Man, you gotta put God at the center of everything. Because that faith is gonna be important. Because when all else fails, God never does. Business can be failing. Finances can be failing. Anything can be failing. When all else fails, God never does. And so he will give you the faith to keep pushing. And so I would ask any new entrepreneur, by the way, whether entrepreneurs or not, or starting a business or not, I really don't give a damn if they both work 9 to 5. You got to put God at the beginning of everything. You have to. It'll keep a woman, it'll keep the wife submissive and loving, and it'll keep the man humble and caring. The way God wants things to be. The Bible's very clear. It's God, Jesus, the husband, and the wife. But Jesus was servant. As a man, we have to be servant. And that's the way it is. And so that would be the first one. If you could do that, everything else will work out for you. Because then, what is God? God is love. God is patient. God is understanding. God is compassionate. And so when you put God at the center of everything, when your husband's stressed out, you'll be compassionate, you'll be patient. When your wife is feeling overwhelmed, you'll be loving, you'll be caring. And if you use that as the fundamental tool for everything, everything's gonna be all right.
Okay, so transitioning into like your culture and everything, what does being Mexican mean to you now that you lead thousands?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm a soldier for God. Mexican is just my nationality. I'm God's soldier. I'm a chosen one.
Do you have any like what's your biggest concern for the youth in Mexico and East Bakersfield today?
Thinking that and dealing drugs is the only way out. That's what I thought for many years. Every rich person that I knew that was Mexican growing up was a drug dealer. And thinking that that's the only way out. We didn't have as many as, like, for example, you talked about Ismael earlier. We didn't have Ismaelis when I was a teenager. We didn't have Carlos Reyes's when I was a teenager. I don't know if you follow Carlos Reyes
Yes,
or
I
not. But I
do.
freaking love Carlos. I was talking to him a while back. Me and Ismael go back and forth. You know, you didn't. And by the way, I believe those guys are much bigger than me, so I won't even put myself in that circle yet. But we didn't have, Alba Preciados when I was younger. We just didn't have them. These guys are, and I'll give them all the credit in the world. I came in a little later than all three of them. They are definitely, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, paving the way for the Hispanic community in California to say these guys did it without having to break the law. So I'm hoping to be around that realm. I believe that these guys are bigger than me right now. And they're making a bigger impact than I am. But I'm hoping to get in their league soon. And that's why I like talking to all three of them. So, yeah, that's what I believe. I think that the Hispanic community right now needs those guys. And I feel the Hispanic community needs another example of that. That's why I'm hoping to join that Hall of Fame with them. Yeah, that would be my
goal. What's one prayer that changed your business and your mindset?
What is it? I'm sorry?
What's one prayer that changed your business or your mindset?
Though I walked through the valley of death. That's that one right there. Nothing will be used against me.
When do you feel closest to God? During wins or during struggle?
During wins. Because you could become very arrogant and think that you're really that good. And he will remind you that you're not.
What's your spiritual routine in the middle of chaos?
Driving by myself. I go to a place called, not even my wife knows this, but I'll go to the area, Bakersfield, we call this called the Panorama. Mm-hmm. And you kind of see the oil fields. It overviews, it doesn't overview the city, it overviews the oil fields and the mountains. And I go there and I'll sit there and go on a bench, sit there and just ask God to give me the wisdom to make the right decisions. Because if I don't make the right decisions, a lot of people get affected by it. So I ask God for the wisdom to make the right decisions.
What's one daily discipline that you think saved your life?
Gym.
Gym?
Yeah. It's
more mental than physical, right?
Yeah, because I could be very self-destructive. Yeah, so gym is what helps me stay focused. I go to the gym every single morning, and it keeps me focused.
How do you stay dangerous when you're already successful?
That's a good one. I don't compare myself to my family and friends. I compare myself to the biggest in my industry. I'm a baby. I'm broke. I'm nobody. I'm a joke compared to when I walk into the industry. Like, I'm not, again, I won't share their names. Some of them are not even my industry, my company. They're in the industry, though, and these guys have 50,000 licensed agents. They're making $25, $26 million a year. They have guys that are making $2, $3 million a year. They have 15 guys making $2, $3 million a year. They have 25 guys making $1 million a year. They have 50 guys making $500,000 a year. I'm a freaking baby. I'm nobody. Whenever I'm feeling like that and staying dangerous, I compare myself to the guys that have really done something big. And I realize that I haven't done anything. I'm only scratching this. I'm a baby compared to them. They have 50 of me's.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What's your biggest battle now internally?
My biggest internal battle. Not to go back to some of the habits I had when things are not going my way. The more money you make, the more you grow, the more snakes you meet along the way. Mm-hmm. And there was only one way of getting rid of snakes when I grew up, and you can't do it the same way I did growing up. So leaving it really living with the ideology that I'm gonna let God give them what they deserve, because if it wasn't that, then I would give it to them.
What's one habit from the street that you had to kill to evolve?
Wanting to hurt everybody that
Yeah.
didn't do things my way. That was definitely a tough one. Back then was, you do it my way or you do what I tell you, or there's gonna be consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in entrepreneurship, the way we're in entrepreneurship, it just don't work like that. And that was a hard one for me to. I think to be honest with you, I still battle with that one to this day of not pushing up against people, especially when they're trying to do some shady shit. Like they know that and you know that they know.
They're like testing to see how far you're
willing to take it, and not just being able to, like, all right, I'll handle this with the weight of my arm as much as I need to. It's very difficult to just be like, okay.
What's your edge? Like the one thing no one can outwork you on?
I don't know if the outworking, but I'll tell you the edge. My edge is I solve problems now. I don't leave them for tomorrow. Like if something needs solution, I'm solving it right now. There's gonna be a phone call right now. There's gonna be somebody getting called right now. There's no leaving it to tomorrow. If I get a call in the middle of the night, hey, this is what's going on, and there's a third party involved, I'm calling that third party. I don't give a shit if you're in bed with your wife. You're gonna get a call. We're gonna fix this right now, because what happens is that overnight sleep lets a lot of things linger in your mind. When you're waking up, you have your coffee and breakfast, you already made the decision on what you're going to do. I don't let anybody sleep on anything. If we have an issue, I could be on vacation, I could be on the other side of the world. I could be with my family, it could be Christmas. I don't give a damn. Whatever we need to solve, it will get solved. And the reason I share that with you is because I've seen a lot of people, let's leave it for tomorrow. And by the time tomorrow comes, it's already more chaotic than it was a day of. That's my edge. I don't leave things for tomorrow that can be done today. And I know it sounds cliche.
No, it sounds amazing.
But no.
Because I heard Jeff Bezos say, I think, what's anxiety or what's this? And he said it's by putting time in between. Like the people who get anxious and have these issues, is like they're putting time in between the issue. If you just took even the smallest step towards solving it right now, that would relieve the anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're taking action.
Absolutely.
And that's awesome.
Disgruntled client, disgruntled agent, misunderstanding between my agents, disgruntled broker, disgruntled landlord, whatever. My landlord calls me. Now we have a beautiful office, but I share with another company.
Yeah.
And one of my guys was being a little bit loud. We share a wall with them, and he calls me. Cool guy, super cool. He's not the landlord. He's a manager, TJ. And he says, hey, Rick, I have this issue with this, and this. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm in the office. Let me go. Stay on the phone. I'm going to go over there right now. Right? Yeah. So I go over there. Hey, Edwin, what's up? Lower your TV, bro. We have a neighbor on the other side that can hear everything. They can hear your whole TV. He's not watching like TV. He's watching a video, but he has a TV drilled to the wall and they can hear it.
Yeah.
TJ, you hear that? He's turning it down right now. Yeah, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Ain't no problem. Like, I'm solving it right now. Yep. I don't care who it is.
Yep. I
don't care what it is. I'm solving it right now. I'm not waiting for tomorrow.
You're not going to get a list stacked up.
There's not going to be a fucking email sent, bro.
I love it.
Yeah. There'll be an email sent followed up on what happened, but there's not going to be, let me call so-and-so. Let me call so-and-so department. I can't stand that shit. I want it fixed right now. That's my edge.
So, how do you want your agents to talk about you 50 years from now?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't need them to know. I don't need them to feel that I was their friend. I need them to feel that I was the one that pushed them past their own personal limiting beliefs. Yeah, and their friend in the meanwhile.
Amen.
Yeah, I don't need a Patrick. It's so funny. Patrick's my friend and I love him to death. But Patrick will always be remembered as a man in my family that pushed me beyond my personal limiting beliefs. That will be the first thing I bring up to my kids.
Well, what does breaking the cycle actually mean in your family?
Breaking the cycle? Like breaking a cycle? Or what do you mean to be exact?
What does it mean to you? Like, what does breaking the cycle mean to you and to your wife? And
I come from I kind of give you my background already. Yeah. Breaking the cycle of thinking that there's only one way to make money in divorces. Everybody on my family, on both sides of my family, have been married 2 or 3 times and have kids out of wedlock. And my grandfather used to tell me when I was a kid, as long as you could afford them, you can have as many women as you want. As long as you can afford them. Don't mistreat them. Don't be uneven with them. If you give one something to one, you got to give it to the other. Have as many women as you want, but just never be irresponsible. Never be have too many vices. And as long as you do that, you can have as many women as you want. And that's breaking a cycle for my family because my uncles definitely lived by that shit, my dad included. So I have an older brother that my dad had.
So just like all these beliefs you grew up with is like breaking cycle means like you're changing.
It's not just one thing. You're
having to change the whole way that you grew up with, and like, yeah.
Well, but the thing is, because all my uncles had money, they all thought that they could do whatever the fuck they want. Like there was no accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And that damaged a lot of the families. Including my family. It damaged all of our families.
What's the legacy you're building beyond money?
That you're a chosen one, regardless of your background, your skin color, your religion, your upbringing, your financial situation growing up, your deficiencies, your lack of certain strengths, that you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, and that God put you on this earth for a reason because you are chosen. That's the legacy I want to leave behind.
What do you want your kids to learn from your failures?
That is not the end of the world. It's going to be okay.
What scares you most? Like losing it all or being forgotten?
No, losing God's approval. That's the only thing that scares me because everything ends and starts with Him. If I lose His approval, this is all going to go to shit. And it doesn't matter what you're remembered for at that point because you're not going to be remembered by God. I won't be on His book of people worth remembering. And that scares me.
What's one thing you believe that most people will hate you for?
Pushing them too hard.
What advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Oh, man. You have nothing to prove to the wrong people because that'll get you in trouble for a very long time. I tried doing that. I wanted to prove myself to the wrong people, and that's how I ended up in prison.
If you died tomorrow, what's one thing you wish you had said on camera?
Never vote Democrat.
What's one lesson you learned from losing someone close?
Time is of the essence. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. It'll be gone before you think.
What does real freedom mean to you now?
What does real freedom mean to me now? What is real freedom? Not being tied down by the chains of how I was raised and realizing that I can set my own path. I don't have to be I don't have to follow the footsteps of what I saw growing up. I'm free of that. I broke those chains and so can you. That would be my biggest thing.
Last question, man. You're Republican, you're
Yes.
pro-Trump. What do you say to the people that hate you for it?
I don't give a fuck. No, I'm just kidding. Man. There's a whole podcast on its own. First of all, Quinn, I'm pro-America. And I have to choose the less of two evils. The Democrat Party is a party of slave owners. The Democrat Party, and they try to get away from it. So funny. Oh, there was a big switch. So what happened when the Republicans said, oh, we're going to be Democrats now, and the Democrats said, we're going to be Republicans now. There's no proof of that. The only party that ever owned slaves was the Democrat Party. And the only Republican that ever owned a slave is because he married a Democrat. This reigned true through the civil rights. Biden openly opposed desegregation. His biggest... what is it called? mentor was Robert Byrd, which was a very known, high-ranking KKK member. With the Great Society Act with LBJ, he said, I'm going to have these ends voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And they destroyed the black family. The black family was actually thriving even during the civil rights. The first female billionaire in America was Miss Walker, I believe her, C.J. Walker, if I'm not mistaken. She lived right next to, I believe it was one of the Roosevelts, I believe. I don't remember exactly. Don't quote me on that. When you do your homework on how much they've damaged the minorities, we're just a political pawn. So funny. 2020, during the riots, Gavin Newsom called the California National Guard to come in and stop the riots,
right? Yeah.
During COVID. But now he's pushing Trump back on it, right?
It's crazy. You saw that, like a lawsuit or something?
Yeah, but he did it. He activated 1,000 of them. He told you your kids can go to school, but his kids were going to school. He told you don't be out with your friends and family, and he was out with his friends and family during COVID. The list is long. We're just nothing more than a political pawn to them. Matter of fact, Malcolm X said it in one of his speeches that the white liberal differs from is different from the white conservative, and the white liberal will give you token. Will use you and make it seem like they're your friend, benefactor, only to turn on you and use you. And because I was not raised in an emotional household, I can see things logically. And I'm tired of our people being used as political pawns. We're being used right now with this whole thing with the immigration. So funny, nobody had anything to say when Obama deported 3 million people, right? And it's so funny how now people they know these two words, due process. You've never heard of that before in your life. You're only, Obama used due process because you hear CNN, MSNBC, and TikTok say it. You don't even know what due process is. But now all of a sudden you're a law major, and you know Barack Obama created the cages our kids were in 2014. In 1996, Bill Clinton created the bill that separated families, but nobody knows that. 1986, the only party to ever give amnesty was a Republican Party. My grandpa remembers that. And so therefore, that's why I'm a Republican. I'm not so much a Trump. I'm more Republican. It aligns with my views more than anything. God, family, country, religion. And that's what it... Now, are they perfect? No. Absolutely not. But I have to choose one of two. And not voting is simply not an option. And the Democrat Party opposes everything I believe in. SB 14, having sex with a 16 and 17-year-old a misdemeanor versus a felony. Telling my little boy that he could become a little girl. Telling my little girl that she could become a little boy. That if you walk into a restroom right now behind my daughter and you say that you feel like you're a woman, that I'm a bigot if I tell you otherwise. I'm tired of the Democrat Party, brother. I'm just tired of them. They're so fucking exhausting. They're switching up their ideologies all the time. They want to pander to whoever think that their camp is. And that's why I'm voting Republican right now. And by the way, do I agree, kind of switching lanes a little bit with what's going on here in LA, in the LA area? No, that's not that's a part that I don't agree with. You told us that you were only going to kick out the people that came here, the 11 million people that Biden let in, these Venezuelans that were laughing in our face, saying, you guys come and work and look at me, I'm getting $1,000. Look at me, look where I live. I don't know if you remember that. They were going on TikTok and laughing at us.
Kind of.
It went viral.
Yeah.
That's what you told us you were going after. Why are you in LA? These guys are in New York, Detroit. They're in New Jersey. Why are you in LA? Like, I understand. My logical says, Ricardo, that's the law. That's my logical side. Mm-hmm. But then I'm looking at people's families.
Yeah, I don't go on TikTok that much, but I've been seeing like what's going on in LA. Yeah, you have to be living under the rock if you don't know about that. But
it's just like I'm not okay with that. So
it's crazy though. Like what is going on in LA?
Well, they're going to work job sites and picking up people that are working hard. You know, like I could understand if it was like the 4th or 5th city that you hit. New York is who let all the crazy Venezuelans in the Tren de Agua.
So what?
They were showing
the
us-
riots are because right now people are saying that
They're targeting.
that
They're
like going.
They're going after the working
That's
side,
crazy.
the warehouses, people working in the plants, people working on the construction sites, people working.
I heard something that like they had set up like a tent at like Home Depot or
They
something
did.
for like another
They did.
operation
That's
is what
not-
they claimed, and that like because of that writers started showing up and all this and that. But I mean, I've also seen videos where there's like guys going around picking up. So I mean, all that it's getting crazy.
But that's
out
what
there.
I'm talking. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
I'm pro Trump, sure.
Yeah, but
to
you're
a
not
certain
pro
extent,
like
I'm not pro
getting rid of
that.
people working hard.
No,
And yeah,
I'm not.
I
I'm not.
100%.
So like I
yeah.
could be a Republican, Trump supporter without supporting everything he does. You can't.
You
tell
can
me-
never support a politician
No,
on
you
everything they do
can't.
because there's always going to be something
There's
that
gonna be
misaligns,
something.
right? But
Yeah.
but you have to look at what's the majority that they stand for and what's the majority and you said
Do you like
have to
everything about your
choose-
wife?
that
Well, do you?
I love everything about my wife.
Everything, even the shit that she does, the shit that annoys
Everything, bro.
you. Good answer. Good answer. Do you love everything about your parents?
Of course not. There's always going to be something you can't like, right? So there's the lesser of the two evils,
That's it.
and you have to.
That's it.
And
There's
you
a few things, a couple things that my wife does that annoys the shit out of me. That I don't love
yeah,
it.
yeah, of course.
Like just that concept that you can't support somebody. If you support somebody, you support everything they're doing.
Yeah,
Oh, slow
yeah.
down. You don't even do that.
Yeah,
You don't like your baby daddy half the time. Like don't miss me with your bullshit.
right.
Does that make you don't like your principal half the time? You don't like your boss half the time.
100%.
Like miss me with that. I'm very open Republican. I'm very open conservative. Very open pro Trump supporter.
Let's make America great again, right?
Absolutely, but I don't. That doesn't mean that I fully support.
There's always going to be things that misalign.
This one right here threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I regret my vote. Absolutely, that or Kamala.
But what
I'd
are,
rather have Trump.
but also just to play devil's advocate, like you and I don't know all the facts.
We
like
don't.
TikTok, the news, like all these things, it makes it really hard to see what actually happens. So I always kind of take things for a grain of salt of like, how did this actually, a lot of it for these guys, like politically, whether it be Trump, Newsom, like they have another agenda.
Absolutely.
They're looking at like they're businessmen, bro. And they're looking at data and they're saying like, okay, how do I get to the next level of power in politics
Absolutely.
and who do I need to cater to get there?
Absolutely.
And that's the real game that they're doing.
Absolutely, and I'm aware of that. But we're also not blind.
Totally.
We don't live in Utah. We
Yeah.
live right here. We
Yeah.
can see what's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening to our families.
Yep.
But do I understand where the administration is coming from? Sure. Hey, it's the law. By the way, Mexico does it too.
My wife's an immigrant, bro, and with all this stuff going around, like we're still in that process. We
Of
just got married in
course.
October, and I'm like, babe, like maybe like don't go to LA, right? She wanted to go to LA to get some things the other day and like go downtown by herself, and I'm like, maybe that's not the best
Maybe it's
idea
not
right
the
now,
best- yeah.
because it's like it is getting pretty crazy. You're hearing a lot of things. Whether it's do I know somebody personally who got deported or somebody keep a job site? No, but you're seeing a lot of crazy stuff out there, and
know
you do.
people. Yeah, they're hardworking people.
That's crazy.
You rounded them up, and
That's
by
crazy.
the way, again, Quinn, my logical side, that's the law, right?
Yeah,
I get
totally.
it. And by the way, you have to be logical that way. If not, you're just a freaking puppet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I get it. I understand it. But fuck, man, we just let 11 million people in. Like,
Yeah.
go after them. Why are
Yep.
we not seeing
100%,
that? Like, why are
right.
we, that's what you said you were going after. And by the way, you know what's so funny?
I wonder what the future is going to look like about all this
You know,
immigration.
but let me tell you, I know, but you know what the funny part? The Democrats are so smart, bro. That's why they fucking annoy me so much. This was all planned. Ready? Imagine that you invite me. Imagine that you lend me your house,
Yeah.
right? And you tell me, I tell you, hey, I'm going to have 50 people come over,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I'm going to have a security and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, cool. Fuck it. You're out of town. Cool. Fuck it. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
You show up in the middle of the night and I have 500 people in your house and then security's letting everybody in. And then you start telling everybody, hey, get the fuck out of my house. Who's the bad guy?
Me, right?
Why? Why are you the bad guy?
I guess I'm the bad guy because I'm ruining the party.
Yeah. I'm the one that said, come in. You're the one that said, get out. That's
It's a great example.
By the way, it's genius what they did. Let's let everybody in. He's going to kick him out. We're going to make him look bad. We'll get the elections in 4 years. We're going to lose this one. We'll get it back. Because we're going to write. By the way, what do you think the Democrats are going to write in 2029? Or 2028, the next election? What do you think they're going to write on? What do you think they're going to do the whole campaign on?
So you're going to like this one. I have one for you. So I think it was Ronald Reagan, okay? a kid came up to Ronald Reagan. His parents were Democrats, okay? And Ronald Reagan said to him, you know this one?
But shoot it. I love hearing it. Shoot it. I know it.
You know what I'm gonna say? Yeah. So basically, hey kid, what was the story? Like he wanted to give him some money or something, asked to get some money, and he said, "Hey, why don't if you want to make some money, $20 or whatever, go out, mow your neighbor's lawn, clean the grass, cut the grass, and the neighbor will pay you $20." And the kid's like, okay, and then he's like, well, why don't you just go ahead and I can just give you the $20 instead, or and then he's like, well, why wouldn't you just work for it? I don't remember the exact story, but anyways, at the end, he's like, welcome to the Republican Party.
Welcome to the Republican Party.
And it's like the Republican Party, in my understanding of it, and I'm a proud Republican. It's like it's a hand up, right? People who actually want to show up, work hard, do what they need to do, build a business. Like it's incentivizing for those people to get those incentive business, the tax credits, all the things that you get as a business owner, right? And then the Democrat Party, it's like a handout, right? Yeah. Like everyone gets a piece of the pie. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to do anything. And the rich need to be taxed to pay for the poor and all these things. And it's like there's obviously a lot more to it than that.
Of course.
But like those are the principles of like I'm showing up and working hard. I'm taking advantage of like what this country has to offer, and I'm putting in a lot more work and effort than most people. So I should be able to get those benefits for doing that by taking advantage of it, because anyone can do it, right? So the bottom line is like if you're not going to go out and actually try and build it and do it, like I don't think it should just be like you should expect somebody to hand it to you. It's an entitlement.
That's in Mexico. There's no social programs in Mexico. Why do you think most real Hispanics are conservative? It's the first generation freaking idiot pocho no sabo motherfuckers that are Democrats. Everybody else aligns, all the Hispanic community aligns with the Republican Party.
So my wife and I did a podcast last week, and we talked about like growing up in Mexico and what it's like and all these things. And she loves Mexico. That's her home. That's like that's her heart, right? But she says like, public health care, like you can end up waiting like days to get into the hospital.
Horrible.
To get in the hospital.
And they never have anything.
And like if you have like a serious illness, it could be like a year waiting to get a special appointment and like these things. So it's like there's so many things to be grateful for here, regardless of party, all these things. But bro, we could go on and on and on. But Ricardo, it's been a pleasure having you on. Maybe we'll have to do another podcast in the future.
I'm excited.
And I appreciate you being on here today.
Pleasure's all mine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.